This is a Fox News alert. It was a bombshell. The news on Friday that a grand jury had voted to indict both parents in connection with the notorious murder of their child, JonBenet Ramsey.
911 emergency.
Police.
What's going on?
515th Street.
What's going on there, ma'am?
We have a kidnapping. Hurry, please.
The day after Christmas 1996, JonBenet Ramsey, a lovely 6-year-old, already a regular on the beauty pageant circuit, is missing from her upscale home in Boulder, Colorado.
Explain to me what's going on, okay?
There's a note left and our daughter's gone.
A note was left and your daughter is gone?
Her frantic mother, Patsy, calls 911. When cops arrive, Mom shows them a bizarre ransom note found in the house. Police search, but initially find no sign of JonBenet.
We have not ruled anyone in, nor have we ruled anyone out as a potential suspect.
7 hours later, the father, John Ramsey, apparently discovers his daughter's beaten, strangled body in a little-used basement room. The autopsy shows the child was tortured and sexually assaulted. Police initially believe an intruder is to blame, but because of where and how the child is found, suspicion soon shifts to the Ramsey family itself.
The amount of time that the offender spent at this scene is really very, very telling and very unusual and very inconsistent with a stranger.
Because it is so unlikely that a stranger would assault and torture a kidnapped child for hours in her own home with her parents and her brother asleep upstairs, suspicion falls heavily on her family, especially Mother Patsy, a former Miss West Virginia. The storyline develops that the mom was obsessively jealous of her beautiful little daughter, already sexualized by her mom's relentless beauty pageant campaigns.
I did not kill JonBenet. I did not have anything to do with it. I love that child with my whole of my heart and soul.
Father John is also suspected. The CEO of a computer services company, Dad doted on his young child, but some suspect abuse.
There have also been innuendos that she has been or was sexually molested. I can tell you those were the most hurtful innuendos to us as a family. They are totally false.
2 years pass. Then in 1999, the world believes, incorrectly it turns out, that a Boulder grand jury has decided there is not enough evidence to indict anyone for JonBenet's murder. The former district attorney then clearly misleads the world with the following remark.
The Boulder grand jury has completed its work and will not return. No charges have been filed.
True, no charges are filed, but what the DA fails to disclose is that the secret grand jury has indeed voted to indict the parents on charges of accessory and of child abuse leading to murder. In 2006, Patsy dies of ovarian cancer. 2 years later, John Ramsey is officially informed by the new DA that he and his late wife have been exonerated. That announcement comes after improved DNA testing finds traces of a third person on the slain child's long johns.
It was gratifying in that it was a step forward. It was a huge step forward.
But now, nearly 18 years after that terrible Christmas, the secret grand jury bombshell, the panel felt the parents and a third person committed the haunting crime that captivated a nation. Why weren't they prosecuted? The former DA, Alex Hunter, explaining recently that he did not feel there was enough evidence to convict. He should have let a jury decide.
I'm at total peace about the calls that I've made.
As I said, he should have let a jury decide. I met our next guest, the former Chief Deputy District Attorney of Denver, Craig Silverman, covering the JonBenet saga. That's one of the good things that happened after that whole tortured process. Craig, welcome to the program. First of all, I want to give a shout out to Charlie Brennan and the team at the Daily Camera, the Boulder local newspaper. They brought the lawsuit. They forced the revelation of this unprosecuted indictment. First of all, have you ever heard of an unprosecuted indictment?
Oh, I have. There was the Rocky Plant situation in federal court, but it's rare. That was in Denver, a strange case. Most of the time, prosecutors don't ask a grand jury to deliberate and vote if they're not going to act afterwards.
So this was the district attorney, Alex Hunter, kind of putting his own will above that of the grand jury. To me, Craig, that is colossal arrogance at the very least, and I feel that we have been cheated and lied to by Alex Hunter, the district attorney.
Yeah, Alex Hunter had so many flaws, and the worst part of the JonBenet investigation is the way he had a dysfunctional relationship with the Boulder Police Department. This latest revelation seems to me to be a coordinated effort of the Boulder Police Department. Charlie Brennan, who followed this case from the outset for the Rocky Mountain News, and he's a good friend of Stan Garnett. In fact, Charlie Brennan helped or tried to help Stan Garnett become Colorado Attorney General. So I think there's a coordinated effort here, perhaps to put pressure on John Ramsey.
To put pressure on John Ramsey. Well, let me read from the indictment. There is, according to the grand jury, which means there's probable cause, which means he probably did what I'm about to read. JonBenet Ramsey did unlawfully, knowingly, and feloniously render assistance to a person with intent to hinder, delay, or prevent the discovery, detention, apprehension, prosecution, conviction, and punishment of such person for the commission of the crime of murder in the first degree. That's child abuse. Mm-hmm. And the other one is that, the unreasonably placed the child in a situation where the threat of injury resulted in death, child abuse resulting in death. They're saying that there's probable cause that these things happened. A jury deserved to hear this case, for goodness sake, Craig Silverman.
Well, it's a startling accusation by fellow Boulderites that the Ramseys, John and Patsy Ramseys, permitted and rendered assistance to the killer of their child. Now, it's not clear they're referring to a third person. Maybe they're saying, we believe the Ramseys did it, but we can't figure out which one did what, but we know the other is covering. I mean, there's a lot to try to figure out, but the good news now is Stan Garnett is a different and better kind of DA than Alex Hunter or Mary Lacy, and he has a good working relationship with the Boulder Police who have long focused on the Ramseys.
All right, Craig Silverman, I think this says that there's a third person involved. The DNA said that there was an adult male who left his blood tracings on the long johns, the sleepwear of that poor child. I think there's something happened with those parents and a third person. I think that's the most logical reading of this indictment that was secret until Friday and would have been secret forever but for this lawsuit.
That's certainly a possibility. Some people say the DNA is an anomaly or a contamination, that it's not important, but you may be right. I mean, so many experts looked at this crime scene and said it was staged. Could this have been a staged kidnapping? I don't know, but the Boulder Police, they have so many files on this case, and that grand jury that heard sworn testimony, and without a prosecutor really pushing hard for charges, they said, you know what, John and Patsy, we don't think you were sleeping. We think you permitted and rendered assistance. A hell of an accusation against the parents of this young girl.
Craig Silverman, nice to see you again, man.
Nice to see you.
Two of the highest profile attorneys in the nation, in the world, Ann Coulter and Alan Dershowitz, weigh in on the JonBenet case, also on the Moxley case, and how they chose their cover shots for their new books. We'll ask them that too after this. What a couple. Look at that couple.
Do you ever think that the killer of JonBenet is still out there?
Oh, I believe he is. He's either alive, dead, or in prison.
No one would blame you for being angry and bitter.
And I was for a time, but you can't stay there. It's damaging to you as a person.
I'm angry and bitter. I think that this is scandalous that the district attorney came out. He said the grand jury has completed its work. No charges would be filed. What he did not say is the grand jury voted to indict these parents, and I chose not to.
Well, you have to first ask the question, I don't know the answer to this. Would it be legal under Colorado law for a district attorney to announce that a secret grand jury had secretly indicted with insufficient evidence in his view?
I don't know the answer.
I don't know the answer to that. Look, in my book I describe 4 or 5 cases just like this. Cases where they're 10 years old, 15 years old, 20 years old. The grand jury comes back and they get convictions, but we always win the appeal because there's reasonable doubt. And, even if we think they probably did it, or it's likely that they did it, the idea that you can prove beyond a reasonable doubt with the DNA evidence pointing in a different direction that the person indicted did it. It's not enough to say one of them did it and the other helped. You need to have proof beyond a reasonable doubt.
So you are agreeing with his decision not to sign this indictment?
I am agreeing perhaps with both decisions. That is, I can understand why the grand jury, inexperienced, not lawyers, would come to this decision, but then a professional prosecutor sworn only to bring cases if there's proof beyond a reasonable doubt made a professional decision not to do it. I agree with that decision. Now, whether he should have said something different, because I agree with you, what he said was misleading.
All right. Now, Ann, I cannot believe that you would agree that a public official who's so carefully threading the needle of fact here would be in the right.
No, I think he did make the right decision. I mean, you have the DNA evidence. Okay, it's not dispositive. You can say it was...
the DNA evidence came years later.
Right.
It did not exist at the time the grand jury indicted.
But we have it now, sitting here tonight, so that seems to be pretty good evidence that he did the right thing. But on top of that, when you add the DNA evidence, however it can be attacked to the fact that this is a very unlikely crime for this particular couple, although it's just the kind of crime the media and the public rush to believe, like the Duke lacrosse players. We still want to believe that beautiful, happy families who are well off are going around committing horrible crimes, like Bloomberg saying the Times Square bomber is probably a Tea Partier. Oops, it's another Muslim.
Did he say that?
Crimes are often what we expect them to be, and when the evidence is consistent with it being what we expect it to be. And the final thing I'd say about this is, if you get murdered, do not get murdered in Greenwich, Connecticut, Boulder, Colorado, Aspen, Colorado, or many other places where police have one murder a decade.
Make sure you get a good lawyer. Don't pay him $1.2 million like in the Skakel case, and have him...
Well, do you think rich people get a bonus, or do you think they are tried more severely, generally speaking?
The answer is yes, both.
But I'm talking about the cops.
They get tried more...
The cops are blunderers.
Let me give you another...
Not if I could just finish that point, sure, so that it's not misunderstood. I'm not blaming the cops, but if they have one murder per decade, I mean, all of these cases, the cops didn't secure the scene. They didn't bring the potential suspects in. You would instantly accuse the parents. Of course you would in a case like
that. The closest case I have to this was when Binion from Binion's Casino was...
I remember that. The Vegas case, yeah.
And of course, he had a young girlfriend, an exotic dancer. She had a boyfriend. Of course they were going to blame him. Then they found the major piece of evidence. They found a mark on his body that was consistent with a button he was wearing on his shirt, proving that he was killed by compression. I get in the case. I look
crushed. He was crushed, right?
Right, he was crushed. It was called burked to death by Burke and Hare, the two people from the 19th century. I get in the case, I look at the photograph and I say, that may not be a bruise. I give it to the leading dermatologist in the world. He puts it under X-ray examination and he figures it out. It's a malign, benign tumor that he has had for 30 years. And we get the conviction reversed and the woman goes free. That's what happens in real life. This is before CSI. This is before Dexter. Virtually all the cases that I've won and I describe in this book are all science cases where science trumps common sense.